What if I told you that the entire global financial system, trillions of dollars, centuries of banking tradition, the very concept of money itself, traces back to a stick? Not a metaphorical stick. Not some sophisticated financial instrument cleverly nicknamed a stick. An actual, literal, wooden stick with notches carved into it. And here is the wildest part. The illiterate peasants using it understood debt better than most MBA graduates do today. Welcome to the logic of nations. And today, we are auditing the concept of value itself, starting from the very beginning. Okay, so before we get into the medieval madness that is the tally stick, I need to set something up for you, because this is going to hit harder with a little context. We live in a world where financial literacy is treated like some elite secret. Banks have entire departments dedicated to making sure you do not fully understand what they are doing with your money. Financial products come with terms and conditions that read like a different language. And somehow, we have arrived at this cultural conclusion that understanding money is complicated, that it requires education, expertise, sophistication, that the average person simply cannot be expected to grasp these abstract concepts of debt and credit and value. Now hold that thought. Hold it right there. Because I want to introduce you to a 13th century English farmer who could not read a single word, could not write his own name, had probably never seen the inside of anything resembling a school. And yet this person had a more fundamentally sound understanding of debt and obligation than the average person swiping their credit card today. How? A stick. A notched, split, wooden stick. Let that sit with you for a second. Here is how it actually worked. And this is where it gets genuinely fascinating. When the English crown needed to collect taxes, because kings always need money, always, this is a universal historical constant, they faced a logistical nightmare. You have got a kingdom full of people who cannot read. You cannot send out invoices. You cannot mail statements. You cannot issue paper receipts because paper is expensive and literacy is rare. So what do? You pick up a piece of wood. The royal tax collectors would take a hazel stick, specifically hazel because it splits cleanly, and they would carve notches into it representing the amount of tax owed or paid. Different sized notches represented different values. A deep, wide notch might represent £1, a smaller notch a shilling. Then here is the genius move. They would split that stick down the middle, lengthwise. The crown kept one half, called the stock. The taxpayer kept the other half, called the foil. And whenever there was a dispute about what was owed, you literally matched the two pieces together. The notches either lined up or they did not. There was no arguing with physics. The wood told the truth. Now I want you to really appreciate what just happened there, because this is where the satire kicks in and I cannot help myself. We currently live in a world where banks have been caught repeatedly, documented, on the record, manipulating interest rates, falsifying records, foreclosing on homes they had no legal right to foreclose on, creating fake accounts for customers without their knowledge, and charging fees for services they never actually provided. These are not conspiracy theories. These are settlements and fines and congressional hearings. Modern, sophisticated finance with computers and algorithms and regulatory bodies and compliance departments. Meanwhile, a medieval English king and an illiterate farmer had a system where fraud was literally, physically impossible. You could not fake the notches. You could not alter one half without the other half exposing you immediately. The wood itself was the audit trail. We traded that for a system where you need a law degree to understand your mortgage. Progress is something else, is it not? But here is where it gets even more interesting, and this is the part that the history books tend to gloss over. The tally stick did not just track taxes. It evolved. It became a form of currency. When the crown owed someone money, they would issue tally sticks representing that debt. And people started trading those sticks. A merchant who was owed money by the crown could essentially sell that debt to someone else. The stick itself became valuable. It was not backed by gold. It was not backed by silver. It was backed by the credibility of the institution that issued it and the shared agreement of the community that it had value. Sound familiar? It should. Because that is literally how modern currency works. Your dollar bill is not backed by gold anymore. Has not been since 1971. It is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, which is a very sophisticated way of saying it is valuable because we all agree it is valuable. The illiterate medieval farmer and the modern central banker are operating on the exact same philosophical principle. We just built a lot more complexity around it and then started charging fees for navigating that complexity. Now here's the psychological piece that I think is the most profound part of this entire story. The tally stick worked because it was tangible. You could hold it. You could feel the notches. You could physically see the record of your obligation. Debt was not abstract. It was not a number on a screen or a line in a ledger you never looked at. It was this physical object in your hand that said, in a language anyone could understand, "You owe this," or "You are owed this." The physical token made the abstract concept of debt concrete. And when you make debt concrete, when you make it tangible and visible and impossible to misunderstand, something interesting happens. People understand what they are agreeing to. There is no fine print on a stick. There is no variable rate clause carved in notches. There is no arbitration agreement on the foil. What you see is what you owe. Full stop. Compare that to the modern mortgage document, which averages somewhere between 100 and 200 pages. Or a credit card agreement that requires a college reading level to comprehend. Or the terms of service for basically any financial app on your phone. We have built a financial system of such magnificent complexity that the complexity itself has become a profit center. Banks and financial institutions earn money not just from lending money, but from the confusion surrounding how that lending works. That is a business model, a very successful one. And it would be absolutely incomprehensible to the person clutching their tally stick foil in medieval England. The tally stick system ran in England for roughly 500 years. 500 years. To put that in perspective, the United States of America has existed for about 250 years. The tally stick outlasted empires, survived plagues, and persisted through centuries of political upheaval. And then in 1826, it was officially abolished. And in 1834, someone had the brilliant idea to burn all the old tally sticks that had accumulated in storage. They stored them in the furnaces under the Houses of Parliament. And the fire got a little too enthusiastic. And it burned the Houses of Parliament down. The tally sticks literally took the institution that abolished them with them on the way out. I genuinely cannot tell if that is poetic justice or just England being England. So what does any of this have to do with us today? With the world we are navigating right now in 2026? Here is the thing. We are at this extraordinary moment where financial systems are being questioned, reimagined, and rebuilt in real time. Cryptocurrency was invented specifically because people lost faith in the institutions managing the existing system. Digital ledgers, blockchain technology, the whole decentralized finance conversation at their philosophical core, these are all attempts to rebuild what the tally stick had. Transparency, verifiability, a record that cannot be altered without detection. We spent 500 years replacing the stick with sophisticated institutions, and now we are spending billions trying to rebuild the trustworthiness that the stick provided for free. That is the logic of nations. Civilizations evolve, systems get more complex, complexity creates opportunity for exploitation, trust erodes, and then someone carves a stick. The details change. The fundamental human problem stays exactly the same. We are always trying to answer the same question. How do we create a record of obligation that everyone can trust? This is just episode 5. We are auditing value from the beginning. Ancient philosophy, medieval innovation, modern banking, we are connecting all of it right here on this channel. Because if you do not understand where money came from, you cannot possibly understand where it is going. And that understanding is exactly what this channel exists to build. If this kind of deep dive into the logic behind systems that shape our world is your thing, and I strongly suspect it is if you made it this far, then subscribe to the Logic of Nations right now. Hit that like button because it genuinely helps more people find this content. Drop a comment below and tell me what aspect of financial history you want us to tear apart next. And share this video with someone who thinks modern banking is too complicated to understand. Send them a stick, metaphorically. Unless you actually have a hazel branch. In which case, go for it.